Do you believe that massive harvests only come from high-priced fertilizers? It is time to reconsider that. Back in the 1940s, American households were able to feed their entire families using little more than kitchen leftovers, and the kind of trash that most modern-day gardeners simply throw away. Here is the truly incredible part. Tip number 27 takes less than half a minute to execute, yet old-timers firmly believed it could wake up plants much faster following a cold spring. Furthermore, tip number 15 appears so absurd that children used to mock it, yet it consistently produced some of the most impressive harvests. Today, I am revealing the simplest May garden victories that you can implement immediately. These are the minor adjustments that truly make a significant difference. On certain mornings, you might step into your garden and notice your plants are still standing, but their vitality seems to have vanished. The foliage is wilting and the vibrant green color is starting to fade, even when the ground remains moist. Rather than reaching for those foul-smelling bags of chemical fertilizer, a simple handful of raw rice from your pantry is actually a remarkable remedy. When the natural equilibrium of the soil is disrupted, destructive fungi can rapidly strike the roots, causing the plants to lose their life force. Simply scatter a handful of white rice around the base of your plant and cover it lightly with a thin layer of earth. As that rice gradually decomposes beneath the surface, it encourages the growth of beneficial microbes and fungi, which quietly prevents root rot and enhances the soil from the inside out. Rice does more than just nourish the plant. It helps rebuild the natural ecosystem of the soil, allowing roots to grow deeper and more robust without the need for expensive chemical additives. The end result is a vigorous root system that provides a solid foundation for future bountiful harvests without any need for costly artificial products. Those eggshells from your breakfast were never viewed as garbage because they contain the cleanest source of calcium that any plant could desire. When you notice plant stems becoming weak and snapping easily in the breeze, or when persistent snails keep invading your beds, that is when you need to utilize the power of eggshells. You should wash them and dry them on old metal sheets until they become brittle and carry the scent of the sun. Then, use your hands to crush them into small, shimmering fragments to scatter around your tomato plants, peppers, or delicate flowers. The calcium within these shells will gradually leach into the earth, reinforcing the cell walls to make the stems sturdy and helping the plants resist various diseases. Even better, the jagged edges of the crushed shells act as a formidable physical deterrent that soft-bodied snails cannot cross to reach your young sprouts. Every tiny piece of shell serves as both a nutrient-rich supplement and a vigilant protector, providing the gardener with peace of mind at no cost at all. There is a specific method for growing potatoes that old-timers used to rely on, though you will rarely find it mentioned in contemporary farming manuals. There is no reason to exhaust yourself with a heavy shovel or a hoe. Our grandparents practiced a technique that was incredibly gentle. It might sound slightly unusual, but it is actually quite simple. You just place your seed potatoes directly on open ground in a sunny location, then cover them with a layer of straw, dried leaves, or hay roughly 2 handspans deep. That mulch effectively serves as the soil for the potatoes. As the plants begin to grow, instead of mounding them with dirt, as is common today, you simply continue to add more straw and leaves. This allows the potatoes to grow in distinct layers. They are not compressed tightly, so they grow quite large and develop beautiful, smooth skins. When harvest time arrives, you simply move the straw aside and gather the potatoes by hand. Every single one will be clean, and there is absolutely no digging required. This technique offers many advantages that were often overlooked in the past. The mulch is excellent at retaining moisture, so you do not need to water nearly as often. There are also fewer pests to deal with because the soil remains airy and populated by beneficial worms and crickets. After a few seasons, the ground naturally becomes loose and fertile, without you even realizing it. The reason this technique was largely forgotten is that it does not translate well to large-scale machinery. There are no perfectly straight rows or industrial fertilizers involved. However, for home gardeners today, this is a fantastic lesson. Simply provide the right living conditions, and the plant will handle everything else. Just remember to prioritize straw and dry leaves over fresh grass, and above all, remain patient. The less you interfere with this process, the more the potatoes will eventually surprise you. Many gardeners worry that adding strong spices to the soil will alter the taste of their vegetables or cause the plants to shrivel under the intense sun. They frequently opt to install unattractive barbed wire fences or apply harsh chemical sprays to deter wildlife. But these solutions are often expensive and detract from the natural charm of the garden. My grandmother utilized a much more subtle approach. She would take a container of cayenne pepper from her kitchen and sprinkle it around the base of her plants. The secret to this method is capsaicin, the specific compound that gives peppers their heat, which acts as a powerful irritant to the sensitive paws and noses of animals like squirrels or rabbits. When these uninvited visitors attempt to get close to the vegetable patch, the immediate stinging sensation causes them to retreat, and remember that this area is off-limits. This is a completely natural form of protection that does not damage the plants or contaminate the soil, all while keeping the garden space open and free of fences. After it rains and the scent begins to fade, remember to apply a fresh layer to maintain its effectiveness. The earth and the sky are in constant communication with one another. It is simply a matter of whether we understand how to listen. This was the long-standing wisdom Grandma applied in electroculture, a distinctive farming technique from the 1920s. She would take a length of copper wire and coil it around a wooden post. Then, she would bury that post about 10 centimeters deep into the ground, placing it a similar distance away from the base of the plant. Most crucially, the pointed tip of the spiral had to face magnetic north to capture the natural electricity flowing between the earth and the sky. This technique relies on using the copper wire as an antenna to harvest energy from the voltage difference between the positive sky and the negative ground. When this subtle current is directed into the soil, it triggers electrical signals within the plant, enhancing photosynthesis and activating its natural healing genes. People across the globe have utilized this method and witnessed massive yields. Some have managed to grow pumpkins as large as baskets and cabbages that stand nearly as tall as a human being. In Ohio, records showed a 40% boost in lettuce production with absolutely no aphids present. For Grandma, this was simply evidence of something ancient. When you understand how to work with nature, the land will never fail you. Sometimes, the secret to achieving a lush garden is found in our own hair. Many people have the habit of throwing loose hair into the bin after brushing, unaware that they are discarding a valuable resource. In reality, human hair is exceptionally rich in nitrogen, which helps foliage grow green and robust. Grandma used to gather hair from her brush and scatter it around the base of her plants or along the perimeter of the garden. The hair begins a very slow decomposition process, releasing nutrients into the soil at a steady pace. Furthermore, the human scent remaining on the hair acts as an invisible barrier, helping to deter animals like rabbits or deer that often sneak in to damage the crops. This is an entirely natural method for pest control that costs nothing and significantly improves the overall health of the soil without the need for chemical pesticides. Whenever there is news of an approaching cold snap, many gardeners panic and assume their fragile green sprouts will inevitably perish. They often rush to cover them loosely with heavy tarps or plastic bags, but sometimes the weight of those covers can break the stems or create an airtight environment that leads to rot. To handle this, Grandma would collect large plastic milk jugs or old nursery pots, cut off the bottom sections, and place them upside down over each individual seedling. This setup creates a miniature greenhouse environment where the plastic serves to trap heat and maintain consistent humidity inside. The plastic shell prevents frost crystals from forming directly on the foliage and shields the plants from the biting winds that can sap their life force. When the sun rises and the air begins to warm in the morning, you simply lift these protective covers gently so the plants can breathe and photosynthesize. This solution costs nothing but provides total protection, helping the garden survive even the most difficult weather conditions. The stress of returning home to find wilted pots after a trip can be resolved with just an empty plastic bottle found in the corner of your garden. Many people make the error of overwatering before they leave, which causes root rot, or the opposite, where the plant dies because the soil dries out too quickly. A very clever DIY drip irrigation system is created when you fill a bottle with water, poke a few tiny holes in the cap, and bury it upside down near the root zone. Following the natural movement of water, as the soil begins to dry out, it will automatically draw water from the bottle in a slow and steady manner, exactly as the plant requires it. This technique is particularly effective for potted herbs that are sensitive to fluctuations in soil moisture. You will not need to purchase expensive electronic watering systems or ask neighbors to check on your plants while you are away. Those plastic bottles that were once considered trash now serve as dedicated caretakers, keeping your garden vibrant and fresh for many days. Every time a new planting season begins, the most frequent error we observe is people discarding all the old soil in their containers to replace it with brand new bags from the garden center. Many believe that old soil is entirely depleted of nutrients and teeming with pathogens, so keeping it would be a waste of time and make it difficult for new plants to thrive. However, hauling heavy bags of soil and paying for them every single season is a significant burden, especially for older gardeners. To our grandparents, soil was a living entity that needed to be revitalized rather than replaced. Instead of throwing it all away, Grandma would carefully remove roughly the top third of the soil, where old roots and impurities usually gather. Then she would use a hand tool to loosen the remaining soil underneath so air could circulate, and she would mix in some fresh, humus-rich soil along with a small amount of slow-release fertilizer. This method not only restores lost minerals, but also preserves the beneficial microorganisms that have already established themselves in the old soil, helping new plants adjust to their environment much faster. Many people assume that soil leaking out of the drainage holes at the bottom of a pot after every watering is just an unavoidable part of gardening. They try to resolve it by lining the bottom with plastic mesh or large stones, but the result is often still messy mud streaks on the patio and a gradual loss of soil that leaves roots exposed. To fix this, before adding soil to the pot, Grandma always placed a coffee filter over the drainage holes. The fiber structure of the filter is quite unique. It is tight enough to retain even the smallest soil particles, yet porous enough for excess water to drain out easily and clearly. This not only keeps the living area clean, but also ensures the soil structure inside the pot remains stable over time. Furthermore, coffee filters are made of natural material, so they are completely biodegradable, allowing the plant's roots to grow through them easily as they become stronger. In the old days, rusty nails were never discarded because they were seen as a vitamin boost to restore the green color to plants. When you notice leaves becoming weak and turning yellow, it is often a sign of iron deficiency, a vital mineral the plant needs to produce its food. Instead of spending money on specialized iron fertilizers at the store, using rusty nails is a clever and inexpensive solution. You simply place the rusty nails in a bottle of water and let them sit for about 24 to 48 hours, allowing the iron oxides to fully dissolve into the liquid. This water is then used to hydrate the roots once every 15 days. The dissolved iron oxide is rapidly absorbed by the roots, helping the plant rebuild its chlorophyll and regain its deep, healthy green hue. This is a particularly effective treatment for finicky flowers like roses or hydrangeas, helping them stay healthy and produce even more vibrant blossoms. An old, worn-out pair of dusty boots does not have to end its life in a landfill. Simply poke a few small holes in the bottom for drainage, fill them with rich black soil, and plant some bright daisies or bushes of margaritas. The leather or rubber material of the old shoe is excellent at retaining heat and protecting the roots from sudden changes in temperature. When flowers begin to bloom from the old shoes, they create a nostalgic charm that makes a wooden fence feel more vibrant and warm. People back then were able to see the beauty in items that most would throw away. Through these simple acts, our grandparents taught us to value what we have, to be resourceful, and to find happiness in turning trash into something functional. It is as if life always has a gentle way of starting over. Once the inside of an onion has been used to feed the family, the skins serve as a lifesaver to help plants get through damp seasons prone to mold. When humidity levels rise, harmful molds and bacteria can easily strike, causing leaves to lose their natural luster and developing spots of disease. Instead of using chemical sprays that harm beneficial insects, try boiling onion skins in water for about 10 minutes. This process releases sulfur and potent antioxidants into the liquid. After it has cooled, use this water to hydrate the roots or spray it directly onto the foliage to create an invisible shield. Onion skin water does more than just stop mold growth. It also strengthens the plant's natural immune system. The leaves will become noticeably greener and healthier while remaining safe for the garden's ecosystem. It is a cost-saving solution that works wonderfully, making the most of the hidden value in everyday kitchen scraps. Have you ever considered pouring boiling water in your garden without destroying the entire space? It sounds like a disaster for plants, because most people believe boiling water will ruin the soil, kill all the microorganisms, and leave everything barren. Because of that, many people choose to spend hours pulling weeds until their backs ache, or they rely on chemical-heavy weed killers. But our grandparents viewed a pot of boiling water through a completely different lens, seeing it as a precise and safe weeding tool. Grandma would pour it directly onto patches of weeds growing in the cracks between stones, along walls, or on brick walkways. The high temperature immediately destroys the weed's cell structure, essentially cooking the roots so they cannot recover. The key is that boiling water is only used in spots where no desired plants are growing, so it does not harm the garden soil or nearby vegetation. No chemicals, no money spent, and no bending over for hours. With just a kettle from the kitchen, Grandma kept the yard free of weeds and safe for the entire family. It is a small tip, but it demonstrates the intelligence and nature-friendly lifestyle of the previous generation. In the memories of longtime gardeners, bread was never wasted because it was seen as a quiet offering for the invisible world of microbes beneath the surface. Land that has been farmed for a long time often becomes exhausted and lacks beneficial bacteria, so even with regular watering, the plants will not look vibrant. To revitalize the soil's energy, take pieces of very dry bread out to the garden, crush them by hand, and bury them around the base of the plants as a smart biological supplement. When it encounters the moisture in the soil, the starch and the yeast in the bread initiate a natural fermentation, providing a strong push that activates beneficial microbes and fungi. This process not only loosens the soil structure from the inside, but also helps break down organic matter into nutrients that roots can easily absorb. Like lighting a biological spark at the center of life, fermented bread helps the soil return to life and remain fertile for many seasons to come. Placing lifeless stones around the base of a plant is often viewed by many as a nuisance during maintenance, or something that makes the soil heavy and difficult to drain. However, in the eyes of our grandparents, each rock was an invaluable heating pad of thermal energy gifted by the sun. On cool days, Grandma would select medium-sized stones and arrange them neatly around temperature-sensitive plants. The science behind this tip is actually quite fascinating. Rocks have a large thermal mass, which allows them to absorb and store energy from the sun's rays throughout the day. When night falls and the air temperature begins to drop sharply, these rocks slowly release that accumulated heat into the soil around the roots. This process creates a microclimate a few degrees warmer than the surroundings, preventing sudden temperature drops in the ground that could shock the root system. Thanks to these quiet companions, plants can maintain a steady metabolism even on cold nights. In the old days, our grandparents did not refer to it as a technique or a method. They simply said, "If the soil is still warm, do not let it rest." And that is how succession planting was born. Do you usually plant everything all at once in the spring, harvest in the summer, and then leave the dirt empty for the remainder of the year? Our grandparents were different. They never let the soil go to waste. Fast-growing crops like radishes or lettuce were usually sown first. In just 3 to 4 weeks, you could pull them up to eat. The young leaves and roots were not taken away, but left right on the garden bed. In those exact empty spots, pea seeds were planted. The peas grew up and produced fruit later, while their roots secretly fixed nitrogen in the soil. Every few weeks, there was something to harvest, something to leave behind as green manure, and then a new kind of plant was put in. Over 4 months, the same bed could provide many crops in a row: radishes, lettuce, peas, then tomatoes or fall greens. This trick keeps the garden full of vegetables, spreads the work out over time, and with every season that passes, the soil gets looser and easier to plant in than the one before. This method became very popular in Japan later on. By utilizing the soil's natural fertility, they could produce 3 times more without using any chemicals. That light green water from boiling vegetables, which many people now just pour down the sink, was seen as a treasure for the garden back then. After dinner, Grandma would set the pot of vegetable water aside to cool completely, then carry it out to the garden to pour small ladles onto the young plants. No need for store-bought fertilizer. That water alone was enough to help the soil feel cooler and make the roots noticeably healthier. Vegetable water already contains what plants need, like potassium, magnesium, or phosphorus, all released naturally by the veggies. The plants soak it up very quickly, the leaves get greener every day, and the stems grow much sturdier. The tomato rows watered this way often produced bright red fruit that tasted sweeter, as if there was a little extra love tucked into every tomato. This way isn't complicated or expensive, but it teaches people to value what they have and understand the land. For old-time gardeners, there was almost no such thing as trash. Everything could go back to nourish another life, as long as you pay attention and put in a little effort. When ants appear in thick lines around a plant or bring along aphids to destroy it, the first reaction for many is to reach for strong chemical sprays, hoping to kill them instantly. In the old gardening ways, Grandma never needed those pungent-smelling things. She just used a jar of fragrant cinnamon powder from the spice rack. She would sprinkle the cinnamon along the trails where ants traveled, and around the base of sensitive plants. Science explains that ants navigate and communicate through sophisticated pheromone scent trails. The strong and rich scent of cinnamon can disrupt this communication system, causing the ants to get lost and unable to find their way to food or back to the nest. As a result, they are forced to leave and find new ground without being violently killed. Besides repelling ants, cinnamon also has natural antifungal properties, helping protect the plant base from common diseases in damp environments. This method is not only highly effective, but also keeps the garden smelling like natural fragrance, creating a clean and absolutely safe green space for daily life. Gifts from the ocean, like seashells and snail shells, are a great way to balance the acidity of problem soil. One mistake many gardeners don't realize is that when soil is too acidic, the plant's ability to take in nutrients is seriously limited, making the plant stunted no matter how much fertilizer you give it. Shells, after being washed, dried, and crushed into a fine powder, give a large amount of calcium carbonate to the soil. When mixed into the dirt or the compost pile, this helps neutralize the acid and adds missing minerals. Besides helping the soil's chemistry, these tiny bits of shell help the soil stay airy and prevent it from getting packed down. This method is perfect for plants that like alkaline soil or need a lot of calcium, like asparagus, spinach, and garlic. Using shell powder isn't just an effective way to fix the soil, it's also a way to respect natural resources, helping your vegetable garden grow stronger and healthier. The comfrey plant, often found growing wild in damp spots by rivers or in wild gardens, has a powerful taproot that dives 2 to 3 meters deep underground to pull up precious minerals like nitrogen, phosphorus, and especially potassium, the key to sweet fruit seasons. Just cut it near the base and spread the leaves around your tomatoes or bushes. Within about 48 hours, those leaves will soften and melt into the ground like a layer of nitrogen-rich mulch. It's estimated that comfrey can produce up to 100 tons of biomass per season. Some people have saved nearly $2,600 over 10 years just by quitting commercial fertilizer and using comfrey instead. For city gardeners, this method can cut supply costs by up to 70%, turning worn-out dirt into rich black soil. From my grandma, it was just an old lesson. The earth will feed the plants better if you know which plant to ask for help. When you water plants with a hose or a watering can, the water often just runs over the surface and evaporates in the heat before the roots can soak much up. That's why Grandma thought of a very simple but effective way, using old clay pots for drip irrigation. You just bury a clay pot about halfway into the ground near the base of the plant, fill it with water, and put a lid on it. You've just made a smart watering machine. Because fired clay is naturally porous with tiny holes, the water will seep out slowly and steadily through the pot walls into the soil, giving the roots exactly the moisture they need. This way of doing things not only saves as much water as possible, but also ensures your plants stay refreshed even on the hottest days. There is strength in unity, and in gardening, the combination of these three plants is legendary. Instead of planting each veggie separately, which takes up more space, more work to build trellises, and costs more for fertilizer, the Three Sisters method creates a perfect little team of corn, beans, and squash. In this close relationship, the corn acts like a sturdy natural pole. The beans will climb up the corn stalk and, in return, they do the important job of taking nitrogen from the air and putting it into the soil, providing free fertilizer for both of its companions. Finally, the big squash leaves spread out to cover the ground below, acting like a natural mulch to keep the soil moist, stop weeds from growing, and protect the dirt from being washed away by rain. This smart combo not only helps you grow more in the same space, but also cuts down on your hard work, while getting rid of the need for man-made trellises or extra fertilizer, creating a happy and bountiful garden. Nature has a perfect rule. Never leave the skin of Mother Earth bare under the sun and rain. And the chop and drop method is a lesson learned from that rule. A mistake many modern gardeners make is cleaning the garden too well, pulling out all the old plant bits after harvest, which makes the soil lose its organic nutrients and makes it easy to wash away. Instead of throwing them away, chop the plants down right at the soil level and drop them right where they grew. These stems and leaves left on the ground become a protective cover that keeps the soil moist and cuts the need for daily watering by up to 70%. More importantly, as these organic bits rot, they become a feast for billions of good microbes, fungi, and bacteria. According to old studies, this method can help increase crop yields by 3 to 4 times compared to just using chemicals. The soil is fed by exactly what it produced, creating a natural cycle that keeps the garden fertile. If you're thinking about tossing that rusty pair of shears in the corner of the shed, think again. Many people often throw away rusty items thinking they are beyond saving, and buying a new one is much easier for them than fixing it. But to our grandparents, everything deserves a second chance. Grandma's secret was a simple basin of white vinegar. Heavily rusted items would be soaked in vinegar for a few hours or even overnight. The acetic acid in the vinegar starts to react with the iron oxide layer, softening it and making it flake off the metal surface. When taken out, just a light scrub with steel wool makes the rust fall away like dry dust, revealing the bright steel underneath. Afterward, the tool is cleaned, dried, and given a light coat of oil to keep the rust from coming back. No need for expensive chemicals. No need to buy new things. With just a jug of vinegar, shears that seemed ready for the trash continued to follow Grandpa into the garden every spring. That's how the older generation turned thriftiness into a life skill. Those stinging nettle bushes that make you itch are often chased away, but for wise gardeners, they are a priceless energy smoothie for plants. When plants in the garden grow slowly or have pale leaves because they lack nitrogen and magnesium, their immune system gets weak and bugs attack easily. The solution is to make a tonic from fresh nettles boiled in water or left to ferment naturally for about 10 days. During this time, the nettle releases a lot of iron, nitrogen, and magnesium into the water, creating a very strong liquid fertilizer. This special green juice can make leaves stronger, boost growth, and build a natural defense for the plants. Especially for hungry plants like tomatoes or peppers, nettle water brings a big change after just a few uses. This isn't just about giving minerals. It's a way to boost the plant's overall strength, so the garden stays in top shape without needing synthetic fertilizers. If you want those tomatoes to be bright red and sweet as honey, remember those yellow banana peels. While many people just throw peels in the trash, tomato plants really need the special minerals found in them to grow the best fruit. Banana peels are actually a huge source of potassium, a key ingredient that helps the stem stay strong, improves how the plant moves nutrients around, and especially makes the fruit taste and look much better. Burying banana peels a few inches deep near the base of the plant lets the potassium and other nutrients release slowly into the soil, helping the plant fight off common diseases. Tomatoes fed with banana peels usually have a natural sweetness and a shiny skin, a great reward for using what's around you to nurture life. When strong pests like aphids or caterpillars attack in waves, a lush garden can be destroyed in just a few days if you don't stop them in time. If you use smelly chemical pesticides, you don't just kill the pests, you also kill the good bugs and upset the balance of nature. Instead, our grandmothers discovered the magical use of crushed garlic and hot chili peppers. Crushing these ingredients and soaking them in clean water under the sun for about 2 days creates a strong mixture full of capsaicin and pungent sulfur compounds. When you spray this on the leaves, the strong smell and intense heat create a barrier that aphids and bugs can't stand, forcing them to leave immediately. This is an extremely effective biological pesticide that is perfectly safe for human health and protects the garden's diversity. A small handful of soil from an old healthy forest can bring the life of an ancient ecosystem right to your vegetable bed through a technique called microbial inoculation. Home soil often becomes worn out and loses its biological diversity after many seasons of using chemicals or tilling it too much. To fix this, gathering a few handfuls of dark, loose soil from under the rotting leaves of a natural forest is the best way. This forest soil is home to billions of active good bacteria, fungi, and tiny creatures. When mixed into your garden, these local microbes quickly multiply, setting up a communication network underground and turning dead dirt into living, active soil. Within just one season, you'll see your garden soil become more fertile and its structure improve, helping roots grow deeper and stronger. This is a transfer of energy from the great woods, bringing back the natural balance to our little garden. Changing where you plant things each season isn't just about rearranging space. It's a smart strategy to keep the soil rich. A classic mistake is planting the same thing in the same spot year after year, which accidentally drains the soil of the specific nutrients that plant loves. Plus, it lets specific pests set up camp and come back even stronger next year. By moving groups of leafy greens, root veggies, flowers, and fruits after each harvest, you confuse the bugs and break their life cycles. At the same time, the soil gets a chance to recover different layers of nutrients, because each type of plant gives back or takes away its own minerals. This traditional rotation keeps the soil fertile in a lasting way without needing chemical fertilizers. It's how we respect Mother Earth's rhythm of recovery, making sure every season gives the best harvest. Fertilizing each individual plant is often seen as a tiring job, requiring complicated dosage calculations and constant digging so the nutrients don't wash away. Many people are tired of manual fertilizing, and the results sometimes aren't as expected because the nutrients don't reach the deep root systems evenly. To escape that tiring cycle, a secret hidden right in the middle of the veggie bed was created, turning old plastic buckets into automatic fertilizer factories. A bottomless bucket, with many small holes drilled around its body, is buried deep in the ground, with only the lid showing on the surface. Instead of throwing veggie scraps or coffee grounds in the trash, all kitchen waste is put into this worm tower. Earthworms will smell the attractive food source, crawl in through the small holes, and then crawl back out, carrying nutrients to spread throughout the garden. The worm's movement also helps aerate the soil naturally, without any rough interference from humans. This continuous fertilizing system not only saves labor, but also creates a sustainable nutrient cycle, where every organic scrap turns into the life force that feeds the plants. Eggshells aren't just for starting seeds, they're also armor for protecting and feeding your plants. One of the biggest worries for gardeners is an attack by snails and slugs, which can ruin tender sprouts and turn a green garden into a battlefield overnight. Spreading crushed eggshells around the base of your plants creates a very effective physical barrier. Those tiny, sharp edges make it impossible for slugs to crawl over and get to your crops. Besides defense, crushed eggshells mixed into the soil provide a good amount of calcium, making the soil structure loose and fertile. Calcium is important for building strong plant cells, helping them stand tall against wind and storms, and handle environmental stress better. Using crushed eggshells is a do-it-all approach. It improves soil health and protects plants naturally, helping us worry less about pests without using toxic chemicals. This isn't just a trick to make the garden look pretty. For the older generation of gardeners, colors were a living suit of armor. Planting a whole field of just one vegetable is like setting a dinner table for pests to come running. That's why between rows of tomatoes or lettuce, Grandma always sowed a few rows of marigolds, nasturtiums, or colorful wildflowers. It might look like it's just for fun, but it's actually a very smart defense system. The strong scent of marigolds keeps soil nematodes away, while nasturtiums act as a decoy, drawing aphids away from the veggies. While the pests are distracted, bees and ladybugs come for the bright colors, helping to pollinate and kill the plant's natural enemies. Because of this, the garden stays green without needing smelly sprays. Each flower there is doing double duty, looking beautiful and quietly protecting the harvest. That's how people back then let nature take care of itself, where beauty isn't just for looking at, but for keeping the plants healthy and long-lasting. When the sun goes down, that's when thirsty plants need a little comfort to recover. Summer with its burning sun is a big test for any plant, and watering at the right time is the key to helping them survive and thrive. Many people have a habit of watering at high noon because the soil looks dry, but this can actually cause serious harm. Water will evaporate very quickly in the heat before it can get deep to the roots, and water drops left on the leaves can act like magnifying glasses that burn the leaves under the hot sun. Instead, watering the garden late in the evening or after the sun has fully set takes advantage of the cool night air, giving the water enough time to soak deep and stay in the soil longer. This lets the plants drink their fill and get their energy back so they're ready for the heat of the next day. You don't need a huge field to get a bunch of tasty potatoes. People often think potatoes are only for big farms, but actually we can harvest fresh potatoes even if our garden space is very small. Growing potatoes in wooden crates, plastic buckets, or recycled containers is a very smart way to use space. You start by putting a thin layer of soil at the bottom, place your seed potatoes in, and cover them with a little more soil. As the plant grows taller, you keep adding soil to cover the stem. This trick encourages the plant to grow more layers of potatoes along the stem instead of just at the bottom, like the traditional way. As a result, you'll get a surprisingly high yield of potatoes in a tiny area. Many people still think that to have a lush garden, kneeling or bending low to the ground for hours is an inevitable price to pay. This hard work accidentally creates a big barrier, turning the joy of planting into an obsession with back pain and sore knees, especially as we get older. Instead of putting up with that ache, resourceful gardeners have long known how to take the whole garden to a whole new level. Garden beds raised to waist height with sturdy bricks or wood allow hands to leisurely care for the greens without punishing the spine. This design is not just a release for the body, but also a wise farming technique that helps control soil quality and drainage much more effectively than planting directly in the ground. Standing tall among the green veggie beds, the feeling of mastering the space and the peace in one's soul is truly complete. The plants are now right at eye and hand level, making bug catching or leaf trimming more detailed and easier than ever. Garlic has long been known as a must-have spice in the kitchen, but in the world of experienced gardeners, it's also a powerful, quiet guardian. Aphids and caterpillars often visit and ruin leaves, making them look deformed and stunted. Instead of constantly watching and picking off bugs by hand or using chemical growth boosters, planting a few garlic cloves directly among your flowers or vegetables is the most natural and sustainable solution. Garlic releases natural antibiotics through its roots into the soil and gives off a signature sulfur scent through its leaves that most pests hate. Having garlic around is like having a silent sentry chasing away uninvited guests and keeping the environment clear of pests. Even better, garlic has strong antifungal properties, protecting the roots of nearby plants from potential diseases in damp soil. Planting garlic doesn't take much extra space or work, but the benefit to the garden safety is priceless. Your morning cup of coffee doesn't just wake you up. It also gives energy to your whole garden. Used coffee grounds still contain a lot of nitrogen, a mineral that helps leaves grow and improves the soil structure effectively. Spreading coffee grounds directly around the base of plants or mixing them into your compost pile helps the soil stay loose, airy, and hold moisture better. The nitrogen in coffee grounds is released slowly, providing a steady food source for plants without overdoing it all at once. However, remember to use a moderate amount and spread it evenly so you don't change the soil's pH too much in one spot. Coffee grounds also help keep some pests away because of their strong smell. Today's veggie scraps are tomorrow's black gold for feeding your plants. Instead of seeing fruit peels, veggie ends, or organic scraps as trash that hurts the environment, we can turn them into the best organic fertilizer for a garden through composting. By layering kitchen scraps with dry leaves, grass clippings, and a little soil in a bin, nature will do its own magic of breaking things down. Over time, this mix turns into a dark, rich compost full of nutrients and good microbes for the soil. Using compost doesn't just give your plants a complete diet, it also improves how fertile the soil is and how well it holds water in a sustainable way. It's a perfect circle. What we take from the earth is given back in a better form. Composting at home doesn't just save money on store-bought fertilizer. It also helps cut down on household waste, protecting the environment around us in a real way. Shaping flower beds or winding paths in the garden often makes many people feel confused, thinking they need architectural knowledge or complicated measuring tools. In my memory, Grandma always had a very free and artistic way using her flexible garden hose. She would lay the hose on the ground and bend it into the shape she wanted, from soft circles to spontaneous S-shaped paths. The flexibility of the hose allowed her to try out different options, standing back to see how the curves look before actually swinging a shovel into the ground. If a corner didn't look right, she'd just use her foot to nudge the hose and adjust it to her liking. Once she was completely happy with the hose design, she'd start marking along that curve to dig the beds. This method turns garden planning into something as light and fun as a creative walk, helping each of her flower beds have a natural and graceful beauty, reflecting the soul and resourcefulness of a woman from the old days. To keep gardening clean, give your hands an invisible layer of armor. One of the small but annoying things about working with dirt is getting mud stuck deep under your fingernails, which is hard to get out later. A small but very clever tip from the older generation is to scrape your nails across a dry bar of soap before you start working in the garden. When you do this, the soap fills up the spaces under your nails, creating a barrier that stops dirt from getting in. After you're done with the plants, just wash your hands under the tap. The soap will melt away and take all the dirt with it, keeping your hands clean and your nails from getting stained. This method saves time cleaning up after gardening and makes sure your hands are well protected. It just goes to show that a little bit of prep can make hard work much easier and more comfortable. Cinnamon isn't just a delicious spice in the kitchen, it's also a miracle medicine to protect the roots of young plants from soil dangers. Cuttings or new seedlings often have very weak roots that are easily attacked by mold and rot, leading to death. Making a cinnamon water solution to water the plants is a smart move, using the natural antifungal powers of this tree bark. Cinnamon has ingredients that kill harmful mold spores without hurting the delicate roots, and it even encourages roots to grow faster. Using cinnamon water regularly helps young plants build a strong root system, helping them recover after being moved or during harsh weather. The nice smell of cinnamon also brings a relaxing feeling to the garden, replacing the harsh smell of industrial chemicals. It's truly a perfect blend of natural medicine and kind care for new sprouts. The journey of turning kitchen scraps into nutrient-rich black gold is the most sustainable way to garden that any of us can do. Throwing away fruit peels, veggie bits, or tea bags doesn't just waste them. It adds to the trash problem. Instead, by mixing these scraps with a little soil and torn cardboard in a compost bin, you're creating a paradise for microbes. Over time, through natural decay and a little turning for air, the trash becomes high-grade compost full of every mineral a plant needs. This compost improves soil structure, holds water better, and gives plants a huge energy boost without making the soil hard like chemicals do. Making your own compost saves money on supplies and brings a sense of pride as we complete a useful life cycle for everything. Mother Earth will pay you back with a bumper crop as a sincere thank you for this respect. Using plastic wrap to cover a seed tray is often seen as the best way to keep moisture in, but an environment that is too sealed combined with high humidity often leads to the growth of mold. Many people mistakenly think the tighter the better, not knowing that lack of air circulation is the #1 enemy that can kill seedlings in just a few hours. An upside-down glass bowl is the perfect alternative, creating a very scientific and safe mini greenhouse. When the bowl is placed over the seeds, the transparency of the glass allows sunlight to pass through completely, providing energy for photosynthesis and warming the air inside naturally. At the same time, because the mouth of the bowl doesn't fit perfectly tight against the ground or tray, air can still circulate gently around the edges, helping maintain freshness and prevent mold. Under the protective glass, seedlings grow quickly and sturdily in an environment well controlled for both temperature and humidity. The presence of the glass bowl also makes it easy to observe the growth of each sprout without needing to open the lid and lose heat. A simple item has been used smartly to shelter fragile beginnings, showing the subtlety in understanding the environmental factors needed for sprouts to reach out strongly. In the art of gardening, sometimes doing less brings better and more lasting results for the land. Using shovels and hoes to flip the soil every season often breaks the delicate ecosystem of microbes and kills hard-working earthworms. Instead of rough digging, the technique of layering organic compost, well-rotted manure, and dry leaves on top of the soil is preferred. Let nature do its own work. Earthworms will quietly move through these layers, mixing nutrients into the ground and creating natural air tunnels that help roots breathe better. The no-dig method helps the soil keep steady moisture, protects its natural fertile structure, and effectively stops weeds from growing. Respecting this biological rhythm doesn't just save the gardener's labor, it also creates a land that is rich in nutrients and lasts for years. Those paper egg cartons are actually the most friendly and ideal biological nurseries for seeds starting their journey. Many gardeners have trouble moving seedlings from plastic trays to the ground because lifting the roots can hurt the delicate tiny hairs, causing root shock. With paper egg cartons, you just plant the seed in each little cup, and when the seedling is ready, plant the whole paper cup directly into the ground. The paper will naturally break down over time, becoming part of the soil and giving it a little extra fiber. The most important thing is that the roots are never touched. They just grow straight through the paper and deep into the earth. This method saves money and cuts down on plastic waste in the garden. Those sprouts will grow up steady and strong in the gentle embrace of this natural material. Pulling weeds and throwing them in the trash is often seen as the right way to keep a garden clean. But this is actually a significant waste of nutrient resources. Many people mistakenly think weeds are completely worthless, not knowing that during their growth, they have worked hard to soak up a large amount of nitrogen and potassium from deep underground. Instead of wasting them, weeds can be transformed into a very precious liquid fertilizer source through a soaking method. Freshly pulled weeds are collected and put into a large bucket of water, with the lid tightly closed for about 1 to 2 weeks. During the soaking process, the nutrients accumulated in the weeds will completely melt into the water, creating a dark-colored and very nutritious weed tea. Before watering, the clear liquid part is filtered out and further diluted with clean water to create a high-nitrogen natural fertilizer. This is the wisest way to return to the soil what belongs to the soil, helping plants receive a rich source of nutrients without spending a dime. Veggie beds watered with this fertilizer usually have lush green leaves and superior resistance to pests and diseases. Turning a pest into a benefit not only enriches the garden, but also reflects a harmonious philosophy of life where every part of nature is cherished. The precision and order of a seed blueprint will make your garden look more professional and harmonious than ever. A common problem when sowing small seeds by hand is that they often grow too thick in one spot. So, seedlings fight for light and food, and we have to thin out perfectly good plants. Making your own seed tape using strips of toilet paper and a paste made from flour is a very smart solution. You just stick the seeds under the paper strips at the right distance for that plant, then lay the strip in the garden bed and cover it with soil. When it gets wet, the toilet paper quickly dissolves, leaving the seeds in the perfect spot to sprout. This saves as many seeds as possible and makes sure every plant has enough room to grow without any guessing or thinning later. A garden with perfectly straight rows of green is the result of careful prep and understanding how plants grow. The sincere whispers of a gardener don't just relax the soul. They actually wake up that strong life force in the plants. Treating plants like living beings with feelings helps us build a deep bond, which makes us more sensitive to the smallest changes in the garden. Sound studies have shown that vibrations from a voice or soft music can stimulate plant cells to grow faster. When you take time to talk or sing to your plants, you're also taking time to look closely at every leaf and bud, which helps you catch bugs or nutrient problems early. This daily interaction creates a two-way relationship. We care for the plant with love, and the plant pays us back with green leaves and a heavy harvest. It's a precious spiritual therapy that helps us find peace and connection with nature in the middle of a busy life. Doing the right thing at the right time is the golden key to the health of the whole garden. Watering plants at noon when the sun is hottest often makes the water evaporate very fast, and water drops on the leaves act like magnifying glasses that scorch the foliage. Thoughtful gardeners always choose dawn, when the first rays of sun appear, or sunset, when the sun has completely gone down, to give water to the plants. At these times, the air is cool and quiet, so water has enough time to soak deep into the ground, nourishing the roots in the most thorough and cooling way. Focusing the water at the base instead of wetting the whole foliage also helps prevent fungi that love damp environments at night. Patience in choosing the right time to water doesn't just save water. It also shows an understanding of the plant's biological rhythm, helping the garden stay green even on the hottest days. Bright geraniums aren't just there to look pretty. They are considered the bravest and most loyal guards protecting the garden. Many gardens are often bothered by mosquitoes, beetles, or moths, making gardening difficult and making plants prone to pests. The secret to peace is planting geraniums in the corners of the garden or along paths to create a biological protection fence. The strong signature scent from the geranium leaves is a powerful natural insect repellent, creating a space that most pests will avoid. Having geraniums doesn't just protect sensitive plants nearby, it also lets the gardener enjoy the fresh air without worrying about bugs. Using geraniums shows a wonderful mix of beauty and function, helping the garden stay bright and pest-free in a very natural way. In the quiet of observation, the garden will tell you its most secret stories about its needs and health. Many people are too rushed with watering and fertilizing and forget to spend time just being in their garden. The practice of sitting down and quietly watching helps you notice the unique rhythm of each plant, from how they reach for the sun to how the bees work so hard. It's in these quiet moments that you'll spot the first signs of sickness or the arrival of good bugs that are helping the garden. Listening to the wind and the birds and feeling the moisture of the soil helps us understand the silent language of nature. The lesson of patience and careful watching doesn't just make gardening work better, it brings a deep peace to the soul. The garden isn't just a place to grow veggies, it's a great teacher that shows us the value of slowing down and cherishing every moment. Sometimes, in the quiet of the garden, the direct connection between your hands and each sprout brings more magic than any metal tool. Using cold, sharp pruning shears can sometimes create rough wounds that make plants prone to infection if the tool isn't perfectly clean. Instead, thoughtful gardeners often use their own fingers to gently pinch off dry sprouts or old flower buds when they first start to wither. Plants seem to feel and respond better to the gentle care of familiar hands, like a soft stroke encouraging life to keep reaching up. Pruning by hand lets you feel the freshness and health of every branch while avoiding deep damage to the stem structure. This act of care, full of love, helps the plant focus its energy on nourishing new sprouts, creating a deep emotional bond between humans and the plant world. Give the hardest workers the best conditions to serve your garden through an ecological worm-raising system. Throwing away coffee grounds, fruit peels, or organic waste in the trash is a waste of precious food for the soil ecosystem. By using an old plastic bin to create a dark, damp home for earthworms right at home, you have your own factory for the highest quality fertilizer. The worms will quietly break down organic waste and turn it into worm castings, the black gold full of nutrients and good microbes that help plants grow amazingly. Worm castings don't just make the soil structure more fertile, they also strengthen the plant's natural disease resistance in a very sustainable way. Raising worms shows respect for every part of the cycle of life, where waste is reborn into the most precious nutrients to feed Mother Earth again. Durable paper towels are often used to start seeds because they are convenient, but their strong fiber structure accidentally breaks delicate seedling roots when we try to separate them. Many people mistakenly think the roots are strong enough to get through the tough fibers, not knowing that even a small injury can cause the sprout to go into deep shock and make it hard to recover. A gentler choice is using soft toilet paper as a sprouting medium for tiny seeds. Toilet paper has wonderful moisture-holding ability, but an extremely weak fiber structure that biodegrades easily when it gets very wet. Once the seed has sprouted and started a root, you don't need to struggle to separate them from the paper. Instead, you just use scissors to cut the whole piece of paper containing the seedling and plant it directly into the soil. The toilet paper will mush away almost immediately in the damp soil, allowing the root system to pass through easily without any injury. This method helps minimize transplant shock, helping small lives catch up with their new environment without losing their most important part. The thinness and quick dissolving of toilet paper is the best protection for the early days of a plant's life. Proof of the meticulous care for every small detail in nurturing life. Tin cans that have finished their job of providing food for the family can continue their journey of nourishing plants in a creative and space-saving way. Instead of throwing metal cans into the environment, washing them, poking drainage holes, and giving them colorful clothes will create very durable hanging pots. These small pots are ideal for growing herbs like rosemary, thyme, or flowers that drape softly over the fence. The metal's ability to stand the weather helps plant roots grow steadily for years without worrying about the pot breaking. Creating a hanging garden from recycled items doesn't just bring a unique beauty to your home. It also reminds people that everything deserves a second chance to serve green life. Those tin cans gleaming among the green leaves are proof of human resourcefulness in living with nature sustainably. When yellow leaves start falling in autumn, old-time gardeners value them as a priceless gift of protection from nature for the soil. Leaving the soil bare between seasons often makes the topsoil dry out under the sun or has nutrients washed away by heavy rain. Spreading a thick layer of dry leaves around the base of plants and on vegetable rows is like giving Mother Earth a soft blanket to protect the life beneath. This organic mulch acts as a great insulator, keeping root temperature steady and stopping water from evaporating too fast on dry days. Over time, these leaves will break down and become a rich source of humus to enrich the soil structure while also naturally stopping weeds from growing. This doesn't just save watering effort, it also shows a deep understanding of the cycle of life, where the end of one leaf becomes the foundation for new green sprouts. Long ago, many families would sow their peas very early, right in January, in a glass frame or a spot out of the wind. They did this so they'd have peas to eat by the end of spring. And anyone who has ever picked peas straight from the garden will understand. Fresh peas are so sweet that sometimes they're mostly eaten right at the trellis before they even make it to the kitchen. The way to grow them isn't complicated at all. Plant the seeds about 2 inches deep with each seed, about 2 inches apart. You can plant them in 2 parallel rows, or spread them out on a bed, as long as they aren't too crowded. Once the plants come up, remember to give them something to climb on. Even the short varieties will produce more and be easier to pick if they have something to hold on to. A common trouble back then was that mice really loved newly planted pea seeds because they are full of starch and protein, and they have a scent mice can easily sniff out. So, before planting, soak the seeds in a little kerosene. That thin layer of oil on the shell creates a smell that mice absolutely hate, keeping them away. Interestingly, the pea shell is thick enough to protect the tiny sprout inside, so the oil doesn't soak in or stop it from growing. When they hit the moist soil, the seeds still take in water normally and grow strong. Just plant them early and keep things tidy. And by late spring, you'll have trellises full of peas to pick and eat right there, sweet and fresh, just like the ones Grandma used to grow. If these stories of old-fashioned wisdom changed how you see the scraps in your kitchen or the weeds in your yard, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We are uncovering the history they tried to bury. Let's grow the future together. The next treasure trove of secrets will open soon.